Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for having us. Thank you for the introduction, Anna. I've been asked to give a farmer's perspective of how we use data, so I'm sure the fact that you're all here means that you know something about data already, so don't expect to learn much from me, but I've been asked to give you an overview as to how we get on and use data on our farm. So I'm going to talk a bit about background, where the different aspects where we use data on the farm for crop production, water management, renewable energy, and farm diversification. And then some final thoughts, not answers, but thoughts that hopefully I'll be slightly more educated by the end of the day and might help my business as well. So I followed a fairly typical path into agriculture, went to uni, worked away for some other people, then came back onto the farm about 20 years ago. We farm about 30 miles east of here, where that blue hexagon is on the map, right in the wash. Flat reclaimed silt soils, all arable. We have a fairly general rotation for our area, a bit of combinable crops and a bit of veg and root crops. And then we have four main business units to the farm. So the main one is crop production, as it says, growing crops. We also get involved a bit with water management. So built 3 reservoirs, and then we use that for our own use and also provide that to other growers locally. We've invested in renewable energy, wind and solar, fairly early adopters, 2011 for solar and 2014 for wind. And then more recently, we've got into a bit of farm diversification with a dog park and an olive grove. So I'm going to be saying about how we use data in those different areas. So we all collect data, and we've been doing it for quite a few years on our farm, but we haven't always been very accurate at it. So we started our journey in 2007. To help us drive in straight lines. And then I don't think we actually started collecting data till about 2010. What we did find is that we weren't very accurate at collating the data. We might call one field 1, and on another computer or another recording system, we might call it field 01, and then the system didn't join up. So we had quite a few years of scruffy data. And when we started correcting that, it then became more useful. Where we haven't been so good at is making it rewarding and getting return on investments. We've made our life slightly easier from collecting data, but we're still trying to get a bit more value out of it. Loads of data around for us all to have a look at. So some of it is free. The growers in the room and livestock producers in the room will be paying their HDB levies. So there's a lot of data out there. Whether it's relevant or not is for that grower to decide. But I think we can do more about challenging the providers of these data. There's often a lot more work behind perhaps the forward paper that's shared with us. So we should use that more. We're from an area where collaboration is actually quite good within farmers. So there's 10, 15 of us who come together for either buying crop inputs or for doing our own agronomy trials. And can be quite expensive on your own. So that shared and joined up thinking allows us to do replicated professional trials. Some of the best ones and return on investments are on the nitrogen side. Trying to find out after the event what the right level of nitrogen was on certain crops, but at least we know what those results have been for our soil, for our location, for our rotation. There's also agronomy groups and monitor farms around and about where we can glean data from, but best data is probably our own data. So we use 3 main packages on the farm, and my John Deere is the first one. So we started using guidance, as I said, in 2007. just to save a bit of fuel and make operator life a bit easier. And then we actually sort of finally logged into My John Deere and created an account in 2010. We then started looking at collection of yield maps from Combine, and then more recently we've been looking at the telematics from the tractors, how many hours, fuel use, efficiency, and then more recently tidying up our system and using actual boundaries and AB lines, lat and long, so that we can be smarter with where we're placing our machinery across the field. We make mistakes with the data, inputting mistakes, but things are getting slightly easier with when you've got internet signal to download and preload operations onto the platform. But we don't always get it right, and then we do have facilities to change it, which is good. We like the John Deere model. It's they allow the data to be transferred onto other packages as well. And it was our introduction into sort of data collection and data use. Another aspect where we collect data is from Bayer's Field View. So we started using that in 2020. We originally used it as a bolt-on for telematics onto an older combine. So then we could see what yields were on the move, help us planning with stores, crop quality, field movement, logistics. Then that has grown and we've understood how to use it a bit more, and we can now use it for mapping out trial areas. So rather than having to combine and put stuff over a weighbridge independently, we can combine the field efficiently and then just map out an area, and it can then tell us what the yield is, as those bottom two pictures sort of show us. You can draw lines around anywhere and get those results, which has been quite helpful and quite efficient. Another exciting thing for us with our water management side is their water use efficiency program, where it's looking at how much moisture a crop takes up each day. And compared to the soil moisture probes that we put in around the farm, which are very expensive and just for one specific site, then this imagery of soil moisture use can be wider spread across the farm and considerably cheaper. I'm sure there's many more things with it that it can do, but they're the little bits that we use so far. The next program that we use, you're probably more familiar with. So Omnia, we became a test farm in 2015, and we mainly used it at the start for helping us do variable rate drilling maps. We use the plant vision system where we're scanning the crops with little cameras on the sprayer. Satellite imagery isn't always available, so then it meant that our own data was. And then we used that into the Omnia program to then build up variable rate seed maps, and then more recently we've gone to variable rate nutrition. We've also had the farm mapped, or some of the farm mapped with the TerraMapping option, giving us a bit more detail on what our soils are about. But the other benefits is it's a really good mapping tool that we can then use for our own benefit with things like irrigation, hydrant placements, and just general farm management, so we can know where things are, know how we're going to do stuff, plan better, be more accurate, be safer in how we operate. The layers that Omnia allows us to use and mix over from either green area index maps or yield maps or soil type maps is particularly useful, just having a play to see how we might want to tackle the next crop or the next field in terms of cultivations or seed rates. So that was a whistle-stop tour of the sort of crop production side. The next part is water management. So I mentioned that we've got a couple of reservoirs. We've got legislation compliance that we need to get involved in. So physically recording how much water we abstract, how much water we apply. So we have systems that do that. Also, water quality is very important for us, and we're selling the water to other neighbours as well. So we use conductivity meters, which are electronically controlled, so that we can put in certain parameters so we only abstract water of the right quality. It's very good to protect ourselves and also the people we're selling the service to, that we're using the right quality. The soil moisture probes, in addition to what we just saw on Climate Field View, are quite helpful for us to see what level we irrigate at, but we've only been irrigating for 7 or 8 years, and we haven't got it right yet, I don't think. The silts are quite difficult, but we're still learning, and there's going to be even more compliance coming into the Reservoir Act, so we've got to keep on collecting that data. Renewable energy, then it's been useful to demonstrate our reduction in electricity and fuel use on the farm with our customer base. Carbon footprints that we've been doing for probably 10 years now. This has helped us go in a downward direction. But also, interestingly, the solar data has been quite comparable to how crop yields have been on the farm. So the top yellow one, the solar, just as a typical 100 kilowatt system. You can see the green line, how poor the solar was this year. That's about 20% down year on year. And ironically, then our combinable crops were about 20% down year on year as well. There is quite close correlation, particularly in June, July, with the level of sunlight and what our final yields might be, which can help us with budgeting as well. The bottom bit, wind, fits in quite well with our use in cold stores for vegetable storage. So it's generally winter in the winter, and that's when we use most of our energy. But if you put those two graphs together, then it gives us a fairly level playing field of what electricity we're producing on the farm each year. Where we need to get smarter of using that data is reducing our energy bills. So we're still importing off the grid, but what I'd like to do is perhaps not be reliant on the grid in the red period, 4 till 7 p.m, and probably employ some batteries. So charge at the batteries during the day, come off grid for 3 or 4 hours, and then the large energy companies are offering discounts for you not using energy during that peak period. So that's something where I need to use the data, look into the cost of the battery, but collecting that data has been really, really helpful over the years, particularly with customers wanting our carbon footprints. The next bit is diversification. The Olive project is new, so we're trying to collect and think of every type of data we can. We're doing trials on water, nutrition, spacing, varieties, flowering, timing. So the more data we collect, then the more we'll learn, and then we can adapt in the following years. On the dog park, I was collecting how many people turn up, what the weather was, to try and find trends and try and influence people's booking behaviour. One thing I didn't do was actually record how many dogs were coming onto the site, which was a massive oversight. So we had to adapt the website and then put a little button to click how many dogs you were going to bring in when we had our review with the council. So some of the successes: taking field corners out. I mentioned the dog park, so a poor area of a field now returning £8,000 a hectare. You can't have too many dog parks around your farm. But also a more sensible example of taking a field edge out and putting it into flowers. So just using technology, using data to try and be more efficient with our fields. And don't know the answers, but what we are trying to do is be a high-performing farm. So looking at all those challenges and probably utilising people and AI to make us better. We're not very good at getting value from our data, but we'll try and do some of those bits and hopefully learn a bit more today.